3.
My name is Richard Kirkwood. Today is the 16th of March 2021. This event is my assignment 4 of 4 for design of the Cert 4 of Training and Assessment. This is Mr. Riley Topping. He is assisting me with this assignment. Riley, do I have your permission to record you for this assignment?
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much. So I'll get started. Okay, Riley, thank you for taking the opportunity to meet with me to review and discuss my training program design that I've put together for your clients. Basically, what's happened is you've engaged us to deliver a Cert 2 in workplace skills for a group of your clients to improve their employability. What we're meeting here today for is to review one of the components of that training course, and that component is the contribute to the health and safety of self and others in the workplace. So I'm going to go through this with you. If you've got any questions or any comments as we go through this, feel comfortable to just interrupt and ask those questions. This is an opportunity to review the design of this training activity, and if there's stuff that you think should be included or might want to make any suggested changes, we'll make them as we go. Okay, so the program title of this particular course is Contribute to Health and Safety. Your organisation is the RNC Employment Services. You're the contact, Riley Topping. We've got your address and your phone numbers. I'm representing the RTO, which is ROK Training Proprietary Limited, and we're training 5 people for you. These learners are all new starters, so none of them are currently employed, and they're seeking to develop their skills to improve their employability. The training purpose for this particular competency is to allow that the learners will know how to contribute to work health and safety in the workplace environment. Key successes that will come out of this is that students will have the skills and knowledge to actively and efficiently contribute to work health and safety culture at any prospective employer that they go to. This is part of the Business Services Training Package, Release 7.1, last reviewed and updated on the 12th of February. So it's a very current course, competency that we're delivering.
Yep.
Okay. The quality assurance that we're providing is the learners are going to be inducted into the program when we start the course. The program will be directly related to the training activity statement for the qualification. All of the training and assessment will be compliant with the standards, and the qualification program is reviewed on an ongoing basis. So some of the items that are required that apply to this particular course is generic work health and safety emergency policies and procedures. Because these starters aren't actually in an active workplace, it's very difficult for us to use the work health and safety policies and procedures from an employer because they're not actually having a job yet. So we have access to templates and sample policies and procedures that have been developed by WorkSafe Australia and WorkSafe New South Wales, and we're going to be using those in the training course to cover what types of work health and safety policies and procedures that they may be exposed to when they go to a potential employer, and this will give them an idea of how that relates to them as individuals in the workplace and how it would relate to their colleagues in the workplace. Okay, so the qualification code is BSB 2120, which is the Certificate 2 in Workplace Skills. There's been no changes to that qualification because it's a new release number 2 dated the 12th of February. There's 5 core units in that qualification, and there's 5 electives required to complete the qualification. So in this particular case, this is one of the core units that we're going to be doing as part of the training course. So the recommended electives that we're giving in this is to support personal wellbeing in the workplace, collect and record data, use business software applications, use digital technologies to communicate in the workplace environment and work effectively with others. We selected these electives because we thought these were very hands-on type activities that a potential new employee going into an office-based administrative environment, these would be practical skills that they could automatically apply once they get into the workplace. So these are very generic skills that anyone working in an admin environment would generally have.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
It's graduate at this level will have the knowledge and skills for work in a defined context. So in this defined context, it's an admin environment. The unit of competency we're specifically delivering is contribute to the health and safety of others. It's a core unit required for the qualification, and documents that we're going to be using in the training is going to be generic work health and safety and policies, forms that template forms that we're going to download from industry sources that we're going to modify for a simulated office environment so that they can see how it would work in the workplace. And these are government created templates that have been aligned with WorkSafe policies like Safe Work New South Wales and WorkSafe Australia in relation to how it's going to be done. There's 5 sessions that we're planning to do over 2 days for a total number of 12 hours, and they're all going to be face-to-face.
Yep.
Have you got any questions so far?
No, I'm pretty happy so far. Just a little bit of feedback on the students as you work through it. Like, I'd just like to know a few of their learning outcomes and how they are achieved, so I can hand that information on to further employees or future employees, I should say. Well,
we're about to go on in relation to that as we speak right now. So the 5 students, the first student is Mr. Peter Watts. He's an 18-year-old, he's just left school. He has worked part-time in retail, so he's used to sort of face-to-face contact with people. He's a kinesthetic learner. Because of his minimal office environment type experience, he may need some additional explanation in relation to some of the skill sets. But we're going to take that with a lot of hands-on demonstration and practical content to enable him to contextualise how it's going to apply to him when he gets into the office type work environment.
Yep.
Paul Toms, he's a 33-year-old male. He's got experience in landscaping, so he's been an outdoors type of guy. He can't do it anymore because he had an injury 5 years ago. He's got well-developed language and literary skills, and again, he's a kinesthetic learner. He can only do minimal physical activities, but that's not too much of an issue in relation to this because we're predominantly focused on an office type environment.
Yep.
But in the classroom environment, we're taking that into consideration. We're going to make allowances for him to get up and move around so that he can stretch his back and generally get into a comfortable position while he's doing classes. So we're going to make those allowances for him. Because he's got he's slightly older than most of the people in the cohort of students, there's the opportunity for us to draw on his life skills. And especially with a landscaping environment, he's going to be used to dealing with work health and safety type activities. So he's going to be someone that we're going to be able to draw on for practical experience so that he can create a situation where the other students can call on him in relation to the practical aspects of work health and safety.
Yep.
We've got Sony Mukesh. She's a 30-year-old female. She's returning to employment after having children. Prior to that, she worked in administration and retail experience. So she has a lot of pre-existing knowledge in relation to this workspace skills, and this is more about her gaining a formal qualification. So she's got the hands-on experience, but she hasn't got the practical qualification to go with it, and that's the reason this course is appropriate from her. Again, she'll be someone that will be utilising as a mentor because she's got that office administrative workplace experience, so she can again put a context in relation to how work health and safety would apply in that type of environment.
Yep.
Then we've got Tara Noble. She's 18 years old. She's just completed her HSC. She's chosen not to go to university. She wants to go straight into the workplace. She's only had part-time work in a fast food outlet. So she's got very limited administrative and office-based skills. Again, that's why she's doing, you've nominated her to do this course. Again, may need some additional explanation to her minimal experience, but her youth and enthusiasm, because she's made the decision for the career path, will be we see it as a positive thing in the classroom environment.
Yep.
Then we've got, lastly, Brendan. He's a 25-year-old male. He has worked in production on a factory floor since leaving school. He hasn't had any other jobs. He wants to further develop his skills so that he can possibly go into an administration or management role. He's a read-write learner. Because he's got some more life experience, will most probably allow him to be a little bit more self-paced in the class because he's got some more practical workplace knowledge. He has worked in a partial workplace environment working in a factory. So again, he'll be the type of student that can provide some practical aspects to the rest of the cohort about workplace and safety, work health and safety in the workplace, around the legislative side of things. So we see that he'll be a very active participant in relation to the course. In relation to the delivery and the assessment plan, I'm going to be the trainer and assessor, and you're the client, which is RNC Employment Services. The training will be in our offices here in Goulburn on Auburn Street. We've got 5 participants. The training dates are going to be the 5th to the 6th of April. And if we go through this, we'll break down the different elements of the actual competency. The first competency element is operate safely in the work environment. Identify organisational work health and safety policies and procedures. So we're going to have an introduction, then maybe have a small break. We'll cover what work health and safety procedures are, what are they, how do they apply to you in the work environment, how do they apply to you, and who else do they apply to in the workplace. Then we'll have another break, and then we'll just discover work health and safety in general as who has an obligation, why and when do you talk to someone. This is in relation to identifying individuals or parties to whom queries and concerns about safety in the workplace. So if you see something dangerous, who do you talk to? We're going to deliver it using things like PowerPoints. We're going to go through legislation. We're going to give them handouts with examples of different policies and procedures. And one of the things we're going to do is gauge the level of existing knowledge, especially with those people that do have some work experience. And by gauging that level of knowledge, we know how much we need to focus on that aspect of their learning versus candidates that may not have that level of knowledge. We're not going to be doing any assessments in that first session, purely because we want the students to get into a comfortable phase. And by gauging their level of knowledge, that in a way is going to be a form of assessment anyway, that we can capture that at a later point in time. The second session we'll be doing is operate safely within the requirements of their own role. So this is going to teach them about identifying what hazards are and what the risks are and how it applies to them and how to report them. Identifying existing and potential work health and safety hazards and then report them to who the designated persons are, and participate in actions to minimise or eliminate workplace hazards and to reduce risks. So what is a hazard? How do they identify it? How do they record them? How to participate in inspections and certain workplace audits. Session 3 is carrying out tasks according to work health and safety instructions. So we'll give them some examples of what a work health and safety instruction is. For example, what's a SWIMS versus what's a JSA versus what's an SOP. And how to carry out pre-starts. So we might have some standard office equipment in the office, and we'll walk through what pre-starts they'll do on it, like on printing machines or photocopying machines and the like. Then we'll go to session 4, which is participating in responding to incidents. So if there's an accident at work, how do they respond? What are they supposed to do? Who do they talk to? What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to actively engage? So if they've got a first aid certificate, or if they don't, are they supposed to get involved in the injury treatment? Identify and report injuries, what are the protocols, what are the procedures, how do they do it? And then the last session will be operating safely, again in their own requirements, identify and contribute to implementing work health and safety instructions and organisational policies. So how can they provide input to the company's policies and procedures? And contribute to workplace meetings and inspections. So how do they get involved in like work health and safety committees? If they've got work health and safety instructions that they think there's a mistake in, who do they take them to? How do they submit recommendations on as to how it will go? And then in relation to the selection methods, we're basically going to be doing it mainly around observation. So observing how the students interact in class, how they answer questions, how they respond to input. And through the course of the thing, we'll have many handouts and many questionnaire sheets that will capture and record to establish how they've absorbed the knowledge that we've done, especially around legislation and that sort of thing. So in the context of it, does this meet your expectations in relation to how the training course is, or is there anything that you would like to add? Or
it definitely does meet all the expectations. I have a bit of feedback that we do get off clients when transitioning people from searching for work to work. These are obviously surrounding PPE and why we use PPE. Obviously, if they can be very transparent in that if we can't control it, we'll control ourselves and obviously then do PPE. I'm definitely very interested in that. I'm also interested to know how all the students operate in the classroom with the sessions. So if sessions are too long, I would like to know, and so I can work and transition them towards a workplace that's more free-flowing and available for them. But other than that, I think you've answered all my questions.
So giving you some feedback on the questions, in the context of having it done in the 2 days, do you think there might be a benefit in relation to, instead of doing it 2 consecutive days, doing it, say, rather than a week apart, maybe doing one session on a Monday and then maybe a session on a Thursday to give them a couple of days to get their head around, especially around the knowledge stuff around legislation and policies and procedures, before we get into the more hands-on practical aspects of the...
Yes, I definitely think that it would be good to split it up a couple of days, but obviously don't want to leave it for too big of a duration. I want to transition them to work as soon as possible and upskill them as soon as possible. So from your professional background, what do you see works best? How much is a good period of time for them to absorb that information before going further, or is it best to go back to back?
Well, working on the basis of the content of this course, it's not a high level of information that we're delivering in this because it's only a Cert 2 course. However, factoring in that there's 3 of the 5 students have no real practical work experience or workplace knowledge around these, I'm suggesting that maybe it might be a better idea where we do those key knowledge elements on the first day, and after the second session we give them a little bit of questionnaire, open book type homework, where they can spend the time absorbing that information and then maybe come back a day or 2 later and then we can do the final practical component. Would that work? So that way we've got it all done inside a 1 week period, so it's not being taken too long, but it also gives them that little extra breathing space to absorb the knowledge that they need to absorb.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy with that, and I definitely will be interested to see in that period who does retain the information and what they do with that information and who goes and further investigates those things to make their life easier. So if we get some feedback on that at the end, it would be...
I'll be more than happy to.
Perfect.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Topping, for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Stop.
Yeah.